let's talk about some of the things that happen when you begin to take action towards your vision and towards your dream, towards that thing that you've been creating, that frequency that you sent out to source. Now, in a video that I posted, and I'm not sure whether or not it's been released yet, you can go and watch that. It's titled um, Why Faith Without Works is Dead, or Why Faith Without Works is Considered Dead. And you can watch the video for all of those nuggets, but the premise was essentially that your faith is one thing, but the works that you do is like it activates a greater law than just the law of attraction. So your faith may allow you to resonate at a certain frequency, right? But there could be a barrier between you realizing your vision and your vision actually coming and presenting itself to you in this 3D. What your works does is it allows you to operate based on the assumption that you have what you have. Taking inspired action is one of the best ways that you can bring about your vision. So what happens when you begin to take action? How do you know that you're actually in motion? How do you know that the action that you've taken is actually going to bring you towards that parallel reality, that timeline, that life, like however you conceptualize the all and traversing this alternative space? So one of the things that I've noticed that happens is initially is synchronicities, and they can start small. Like right now, I look at the clock, 9:39. It's amazing how often it happens where I'll get mirror numbers. And for me, I've taken it as a personal message that I've crossed a threshold where my outer world is a direct reflection of my internal state of being. And in this present moment, I am exactly in alignment with a vision that I have, or a frequency that I've sent out to source. So for me, it's curious that in a video like this, I look up and I see the time as it is in the place that I am. It can be things like that, where if you're conscious of numbers, the numbers will speak to you. It can be animals that show up. It can be just an offhanded comment from someone. It can be a conversation that you overhear, or just a random series of events that's fortuitous or that has a particular meaning to you. And a lot of times it appears that there's a test, as if the universe is asking you if you're really about what it is that you're about. I believe the synchronicities come before a test to confirm that you're walking in alignment. And then the test comes to confirm that you are who you believe you are. That this isn't just a passing fad for you. That you're actually going to go all the way. The synchronicities are interesting. But what I find interesting, even more interesting, is what happens after the synchronicities when you begin to take action and the feeling that you had. So when you're trying to create your reality, there's certain things that you may do. You may affirm certain things to yourself. You may create a pattern where you're affirming certain things, right? Or you may have a certain practice that you do that gets you in that state, that puts you in that frequency to, meditate on your vision. You may be creating a space and adding details, tones of reality. Or you just have a practice that you do before you go about doing the work. you'll see synchronicities, things start to line up, and then the test comes, and maybe it's part of the test, or maybe it's just part of the creation process, but at a certain point, the things that you were doing, you no longer feel like doing. And I don't mean that your dream no longer becomes your dream. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying that when you're living in when you're living in the house that you want, you no longer have Post-its on the mirror talking about the house that you're going to get. Those types of thoughts don't even cross your mind to do that, unless where you're going is enhancing what you've got. But you're not operating from that state that you were, from the lower vibration that you were in before. You're pulling in something greater from the vibration that you're at now. So it's like, before your 3D world changes, your vibration shifts. Your vibration hits that higher level. And in that moment, that's considered like the Sabbath, that point where you stop doing that work. And it's not that you actually stop taking your inspired action, especially if what you're doing is like creating a business or whatever the case may be. That's not necessarily it. It's that some of the little practices that you were doing towards a specific outcome, you no longer feel that pull to do that. So let's take the case of a business. Let's say that you were creating a business and you had to have a particular goal, and you've been affirming over that goal, and you've been taking inspired action. And now at a certain point, you don't feel the urge to affirm. And it's not that you feel bad about the affirmations. It's just that you realize you have that energy that you need, that the affirmations used to give you, and you don't need the affirmations anymore. In fact, you don't feel any type of way, positive or negative, towards what you were affirming. If it was a particular sales goal, a revenue goal, whatever, you don't necessarily feel that it's the most important thing in the world for you to hit it. You may be a little bummed if you don't, but it's like, okay. And then that's the point. When it leaves your mental space, it's like your awareness turns away from it. Like, you believe you have it, yes. You believe you have it. But your awareness is somewhere else. Your awareness now has elevated maybe to the next goal. Maybe there's something else. Or maybe in this time you're just working and enjoying the silence. But it's like, in that moment, you've put enough energy into the thought form. The thought form has now exited your aura, and that is, it's like poof, it crystallizes. And you hit whatever target you were going for. Some person randomly gifts you exactly what you need. You get the call that you got the job, you got the place. Your offer was accepted. And I'm telling you, it happens. There may be variations in details, especially when we're talking about specifics and talking about bringing in a situation versus bringing in a physical object versus bringing in a person. There's a lot of nuances to this, right? But if we turn away from the different nuances of an individual situation and look at the phenomena that's taking place, you can see clearly the through line here into this creation process. So you see that in this density that we're in, the only way to bring about your creation is to take inspired action. Inspired action is the creative juice that allows that thought and the emotion that filled that thought. To then take form. And it's funny because if you stop early, let's say you stop doing your affirmations and stuff, not because you feel and you have that full belief that you have it and you've been taking the tons of inspired action and you've elevated well beyond that resonance of it being in your possession, right? You stop because you fell off. You see that in the crystallization of your manifestation because you still were creating, right? So you see that and it'll show up in the terms of like a half present, half your goal. So maybe if it's a large sum of money that you were trying to bring in, you'll make some money, but it's nowhere near what you were looking for. Or maybe it's close, but it's just not there. Or if it's a person, you get somebody they're good, but it's not who you wanted. You don't feel like this is it. Or you get a job, but you realize that you've conceded all your freedom. It's like that whole statement of be careful what you wish for comes into play if what you wished for is not what you truly desire and you did not you did not have the fortitude to do the things that you needed to do when you needed to do them to maintain your resonance of belief. There's times where right before a manifestation has come into 3D crystallization for me, I didn't even realize that I either stopped listening to a particular sleep meditation, I fall asleep without it, or I go about my morning routine and everything, and it just doesn't even cross my mind to do my mirror affirmations. And then it's like, boom, that thing is there. And I'm like, oh, well, that makes sense. I didn't have the urge to do that. Of course, it shows up. When you start to recognize your particular pattern and how things play out for you specifically, that's when it'll get easier for you to do the things that you need to do. And that's when you can begin to truly judge whether or not you're falling off just because you're falling off, because that's the thing, or whether or not you'll know when you've put enough energy into something. I see when it comes to certain channels, I'll see that people will ask about, specific timelines, like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I can tell you there's been times when I have on and off been affirming and doing all that I need to do for months. And I wouldn't even so much as get a half creation. And it's in those times that I realize, okay, I need to put some serious energy into this and I need to be consistent about it. And then I can recognize, okay, these were all times where I was just falling off. This wasn't I wasn't not doing my affirmation as a result of I feel fulfilled. I have it. And I feel it. I'm resonating at that frequency. I don't need to do it. The point is different for everybody. But I promise you, all you need to do is become aware. Start watching how things start on a day-to-day. Looking at events that took place to see whether or not it is an answered prayer. Remember, it's not just your vision that you think about. You think about a lot of things. So you can start paying attention to your thoughts. Well, all right, you're frustrated. What are you frustrated about? What is the subject? What are you centered on? What happens as a result? Oh, you spent some time doing this type of meditation. You spent some time in this mood, resonating at this frequency. Okay. What was the result? What showed up? In the beginning, it can be a little humbling to really take responsibility for some of the things that show up in your life. But I promise you, if you just hold on to your faith, take inspired action, recognize the synchronicities, pass the test, and honor the Sabbath when it's actually the Sabbath, your creation will crystallize in this 3D. Hey, I love you. I want to see the fullest expression of you. This is The Spark.